If you're looking for a shortcut to understanding what's happening at the absolute cutting edge of global cyber espionage, well, you've definitely come to the right place. Today, we are diving deep into a new and frankly pretty unnerving report from Cisco Talos. Our mission here is to really understand a highly organized, very successful threat actor, and I think more importantly, the critical infrastructure they're targeting.
That infrastructure part is really the key. We're focusing on a group tracked as UAT-729. And this is an entity that has made the global telecommunications industry its primary target. So we're talking about the network switches, the routers, the fiber backbone, you know,
Yeah.
all the digital connective tissue that basically makes modern life possible.
And the research doesn't leave a lot of doubt about the motive, does it? This isn't about money. This is, I mean, classic cyber espionage. It's focused on intelligence gathering and just maintaining that long-term access. Talos even notes strong technical indicators that link this group and their infrastructure to other operations aligned with China's cyber interests.
Exactly. When we use a term like nexus, that's what we're talking about. Shared resources, shared methodology. This is not some lone wolf. This is a highly capable, state-aligned operation.
And they seem to be expanding. They've been active since at least 2022, right? Mostly focusing on telcos in South Asia. But the new data shows a shift. Now they're successfully broadening operations to include organizations in Southeastern Europe. And that geographic leap, to me, that signals something bigger is going on.
It absolutely does. It forces us to ask, why now? Why that expansion? Is it a reflection of new geopolitical interests? Or is it just an opportunity to compromise some really valuable network junctions along new routes? But either way, that expansion shows this group has the resources and the flexibility to pivot really fast to meet new intelligence requirements.
Okay, so let's break down their tradecraft. How do they actually get in? Because this doesn't sound like one of those, brute force smash and grab attacks. It sounds meticulous.
Meticulous is the perfect word. They conduct extensive reconnaissance before they even attempt to breach. They're identifying the exact hardware the target is running, what software versions are exposed. They're really tailoring their approach. It's not opportunistic at all.
So after the recon, what's that initial point of contact? We hear a lot about phishing emails or hitting web servers, but UAT-729Z seems obsessed with public-facing edge network devices. Why there?
Because that's the perimeter.
Yeah.
It's the least monitored, but also the most critical choke point. You think about a massive telecom network, right? The internal corporate network. That might be locked down, running all the latest endpoint detection and response tools. But the edge device, the public-facing router, the firewall, the VPN concentrator, that's often running an embedded OS, usually Linux. Its main job is just routing traffic, not hosting sophisticated security agents. It's the network's silent workhorse.
That makes perfect sense. You compromise the gatekeeper, you own the front door. So what methods are they using to, pick that lock?
Talos highlights two main techniques. First, they're using what are called one-day exploits. And that term is really crucial because it tells us something very important about the victims. A one-day exploit is for a vulnerability where the vendor has already released a patch. The flaw is known, the fix is out there, but
the victim just hasn't applied the update yet.
precisely. So they're not burning expensive, unknown, zero-day flaws.
They're just succeeding because of delayed maintenance.
Exactly. It's effective, it's cheap, and it works, especially on infrastructure where patching cycles might be less frequent than on your standard corporate laptop. And the second method they use, if that patch is applied, is target-specific SSH brute force. So they focus their password guessing specifically on those public-facing devices, trying to get that initial access, and then quickly escalate their privileges once they land.
It's the ultimate low-risk, high-reward strategy, isn't it? They exploit patching delays to get a foothold, and if that fails, they just try a dedicated password attack, a very calculated, patient approach.
It really proves that sometimes the simplest defenses are the most important.
Okay, so once they have that access, they don't just start dumping data. The research suggests UAT-729 has this larger dual function. They spy, yes, but they also act as an initial access group for a wider ecosystem. How does that even work?
This is, I think, maybe the most strategic finding in the whole report. UAT-729 doesn't just use the compromised device for themselves, they turn it into a dedicated relay point for other groups. They establish what the report calls an operational relay box, an ORB infrastructure.
An ORB, so they're essentially building a secret, dedicated backdoor network inside the victim's perimeter, which they then, lease out or share.
That's a great way to put it. This ORB infrastructure is then utilized by other China-aligned threat actors to launch their own separate operations, which means UAT-729 is functioning as this critical force multiplier. They're giving other espionage teams a clean, trusted access point inside the target, and that just vastly expands the scale and reach of the whole state-aligned effort.
And they have a specific tool for this relay function. The implant is called Bulbature.
That's right, Bulbature. And it's designed purely to convert a compromised device into an ORB. It's Linux-based, and it uses UPX packing, which means it's highly compressed, obfuscated, just harder for automated scanners to find on the disk. And crucially, it provides a very reliable channel. It listens on configurable ports, it opens reverse shells, and it supports C2 rotations.
C2 rotations, so it can switch command and control servers.
Yeah, the ability to cycle through multiple servers. So if one C2 domain gets spotted and blocked, the implant just immediately switches to another and maintains persistence.
Wow. I mean, this sounds like a professional-grade piece of software, really designed for long-term denial and deception.
It is, but here's the major giveaway. The smoking gun that connects UAT-729 to this bigger infrastructure. Cisco Talos found that the self-signed TLS certificate used by the Bulbature implant is the exact same one that another group, Sequoia, had documented before.
Wait, they're sharing digital security credentials for their C2. That can't be a coincidence.
Absolutely not. And that shared certificate is linked to 141 China and Hong Kong-based hosts. But more importantly, those IPs are associated with other totally distinct malware families, things like Supershell, GoBrad, Cobalt Strike beacons. So this strong technical link just screams resource centralization.
So if they're sharing digital identities, that one certificate, does that imply there's some central command structure handing out these tools? Or are they all just buying access from the same high-level service provider?
It's a fascinating strategic question. It might not be a single monolithic command center, but it strongly suggests there's a shared supply chain, common operational standards, maybe an infrastructure clearinghouse. Either way, it shows UAT-729 is deeply integrated into this multi-group cyber ecosystem where tools and access points are treated like communal resources for national interests. It lowers the cost and the risk for every group involved.
That resource sharing it's terrifyingly effective. Let's pivot to the custom weapons UAT-729 uses for its own espionage. We know they sometimes use Windows tools like Red Leaves, but their primary focus, which makes sense for their targets, is a specialized Linux-based malware suite.
Correct. If you're targeting telco edge devices, you are targeting Linux. And their infection chain is multi-stage. It's designed to be stealthy, persistent, and highly modular.
Okay, walk us through this chain. It starts with the first implant, which has the memorable name Rush Drop.
Rush Drop, yeah. Also known as Chronos RAT. This is the initial dropper. It just does the grunt work. First step is a basic anti-VM check. It wants to know it's on a real network, not a security analyst sandbox. If that's clear, it creates a hidden directory, .pkgdb, and then it decodes 3 binaries that are embedded inside itself.
So it sort of unpacks its full kit once it's inside. What are those 3 components?
Well, the first is actually a legitimate utility, BusyBox, which they abuse. The second is called Drive Switch. You can call that the executor. Its only job is to make sure the third and most important component, the main implant, gets executed and stays running.
Okay, let's focus on that third component, the actual spy tool, SilentRaid. What does its construction tell us?
SilentRaid, or Mistrad X, it really speaks to a high level of software development skill. It's written in C++, and it's built around a plugin-based design. Think of it like a smartphone OS. You can easily add new espionage apps or update existing ones without touching the core code. This modularity lets them adapt mid-operation without redeploying the whole implant.
That sounds like something a well-funded full-time software engineering team would build, not just a small group of hackers.
Exactly. It shows organization. Now let's talk about communication, because SilentRaid has this truly clever defense mechanism. When it needs to resolve the IP address for its C2 server, it doesn't use the victim's internal DNS. It doesn't even use some shady third-party server. It uses Google's public DNS resolver.
That is brilliant. Why is that such a game changer for stealth?
Because legitimate queries to public services like Google DNS happen millions of times an hour on every network in the world. So if a defender is looking for suspicious traffic, they usually focus on traffic going to unknown or unusual IPs. But traffic going to a massive trusted service like Google, that's completely normal. The malicious C2 traffic just blends perfectly into the huge amount of legitimate noise. It makes it exponentially harder to spot and block.
Hiding in plain sight, using the world's most trusted internet services. So once SilentRaid is connected, what can it do? What are its capabilities?
It's a full spectrum tool. It gives them remote shell access, complex port forwarding to let them bridge gaps in the network, general file manipulation. and highly efficient data packaging. It actually uses the legitimate Linux utility tar to compress and archive stolen data before they pull it out. Plus, they're focused on authentication data. They're accessing sensitive files like etc. password to harvest credentials and collecting X.509 certificate attributes.
The X.509 certificate attributes, why those specifically?
Certificates contain crucial information about encryption keys, trusted relationships, network identities. Harvesting those attributes is often a prep step for man-in-the-middle attacks or lateral movement, where the attackers try to impersonate a trusted service to get even deeper inside the network. It's really about stealing identity, not just stealing data.
Okay, let's step back and synthesize this. It's a highly detailed picture. We've got UAT-729, a well-resourced, China-aligned access group. They're focusing on telco edge devices. They use this customized modular Linux malware rust drive switch, SilentRaid, and they convert their victims into shared ORB infrastructure using Bulbature.
Right. And the primary takeaway for any security team out there is really the importance of timely intelligence. Cisco Talos provides detailed technical indicators of compromised IOCs in their report precisely so organizations can hunt for these specific file paths, hashes, and network connections.
But beyond the technical hunting, what are the broader strategic lessons here for network defense?
First, I think we have to acknowledge the shift to Linux-based tools and this kind of infrastructure targeting. For too long, defensive investments have been heavily favored towards Windows and desktop environments. Defenders need to invest in Linux endpoint security, integrity monitoring, and traffic analysis specifically for these embedded and server Linux environments.
And second, there's that stealth factor, the Google DNS maneuver. How do you defend against legitimate traffic being abused like that?
It forces you to abandon simple block lists and move to more advanced behavioral analysis. You can't block Google DNS, right? But you can monitor what the traffic is doing. If an edge device, whose main job is just routing, suddenly starts making these highly specific DNS queries every 30 seconds for a domain that isn't publicly listed, even if it's going to a legitimate IP, that is a behavioral anomaly that has to be investigated. We have to look deeper at the content and the pattern of trusted traffic.
And the final, painfully obvious lesson, but one that UAT-729 exploits so well, is just vulnerability management.
Absolutely. The reliance on one-day exploits means that this entire sophisticated attack chain can be completely broken at step zero. Just by ensuring prompt patching and robust vulnerability management, especially on those public-facing edge devices that operate outside the normal EDR umbrella, if the patch had been applied, the whole operation is halted before Rushdrop ever even executes.
So what does this all really mean? The threat to critical infrastructure like telecoms is intensely layered. UAT-729 isn't just stealing data. They're establishing long-term, persistent control over these critical network junctions to serve a larger orchestrated national espionage goal. And they're doing it with exceptional operational security and resource sharing.
It's a powerful demonstration of efficiency in state-aligned cyber operations.
Now, for a final provocative thought for you to consider. We noted that the Bulbature implant stores its config files in the generic tmp.cfg directory, and the infection chain abuses a legitimate, universally present Linux utility BusyBox. So thinking about those details, the temporary files, the common binaries, what other overlooked or assumed safe areas within standard Linux system administration might other state-aligned actors be quietly exploiting right now? The sheer ordinariness of the targets is what enables the extraordinary breach, something to chew on until our next deep dive.